Humph, you're just a bottom-of-the-barrel subcontractor designer, barely scraping by thanks to my company, and you can't even show a shred of gratitude by getting on your knees? I ran into my ex-girlfriend at a client's wedding, and that was the first thing she said to me. As I looked at her, I couldn't help but think, I really used to love this woman? I felt pathetic, sad, and just completely stunned. Ugh, I seriously made the right call dumping you. Still dressing like you're broke. And you call yourself a designer? You've got no taste, no money, just a complete loser. She let loose without holding back, but she was about to regret every word. Because I'm not the man she used to know anymore. My true identity is, I am Kyle. I work as a freelance designer based in Tokyo. It's been 6 months since I quit the company I'd been working at ever since graduation. It was a major name in the industry, one I had admired since I was a student. I still remember how thrilled I was when I got the job offer. I get to work at the company I've always dreamed of, alongside so many amazing people. With my designs, I'll bring smiles to so many clients. What awaited me after I joined the company, full of excitement, was a harsh gap between my ideals and reality. The design proposals I carefully crafted by listening to the clients and working closely with them to bring joy were all rejected by my boss without exception. Their reasons? Too expensive. The deadline can't be met. It could damage our company's reputation, and so on. Time after time, I was told, our internal decision takes priority over client requests, and the final say was always out of my hands. It kept happening over and over again. Once my boss said, it's the company's decision, there was nothing I could say that would change the outcome. I would end up delivering designs that hardly reflected the client's original requests, and of course, they were disappointed, sometimes even angry. All I could do was apologize. Because our company was a major player in the industry, clients often held back their true feelings and signed the contract, knowing that causing trouble here could affect future business, and I couldn't bear to look them in the eye during those moments. I can't do this anymore. I want to create work that makes clients happy. I want to make something that brings smiles. I want to design with the client's heart in mind. Even though I had dreamed of working at that company, I just couldn't align myself with their business philosophy, which ran completely counter to my beliefs. So I quit and decided to go independent. Letting go of a steady income took real courage. And to be honest, even now 6 months later, the struggle of building trust from scratch hasn't changed. But when I hand over a design that I carefully crafted through countless conversations with the client, and I see that smile of genuine joy on their face, when I hear their words of joy, it fills me with happiness too. It makes me feel like all the effort was worth it. Yes, it's harder than ever, but life now is far more fulfilling than back when I was a company employee. And in the middle of these hectic days, there's someone who's always been there to support me. Today, my girlfriend Amanda was coming over for the first time in a while. Amanda and I have been together since college. We were in different majors, but she was cheerful, outgoing, and had lots of friends. Because we had mutual friends, we often hung out in groups. Eventually, we started spending more time just the two of us, and before we knew it, we were a couple. During job hunting, Amanda struggled to get offers and often felt down. But when I got mine, she celebrated like it was her own success. Even when things got tough at my old job, she would say, "You've got this, Kyle. There are people at work who will see your worth, just like I do," and lift me up with her bright smile. As we shared the dinner we prepared together, I found myself gazing at her across the table. What? What's with the stare? You're not getting any of mine, if that's what you're thinking. No, it's not that. I'm just happy we finally get to spend some time together again. Oh, really? Well, fine then. After swallowing the side dish she had been eating, Amanda looked straight at me and asked a question. Hey Kyle, how's work been lately? Is everything going smoothly? Yeah, better than when I first went solo. I'm getting more work, and I've even got a few clients who keep coming back, so things are moving along. Her face lit up when she heard that. That's great. So, are you thinking of getting an office soon instead of working from home? Well, not quite there yet. I still haven't caught up to what I was earning at the company, I replied with a wry smile. It's only been 6 months since I went independent. Each project still pays relatively little, and it's hard to take on a large volume of work. More than anything, though, I believe that right now it's more important to build trust and lasting relationships. What? Seriously? You should just take on more jobs and make more money. Or why not raise your rates? With your skills, I bet you could charge a lot more. Amanda frowned at my answer at first, but then leaned in with growing excitement, as if she had just come up with a brilliant idea. Taken aback by her energy, I still responded calmly. I really appreciate you saying that, but I want to take the time to truly connect with each client and create something meaningful. Seeing their joy when the work is done, that makes me feel like it was all worth it. That feeling. It's something money can't replace. That kind of joy doesn't pay the bills, no matter how much of it you have. What? Her cold tone caught me completely off guard, and I stared at her in disbelief. Noticing both my expression and the silence in the room, Amanda suddenly raised her voice. Honestly, Kyle, this is exactly what I mean when I say you're naive or just out of touch. If you keep dragging your feet like this, you'll never become a company president. It's really frustrating. From now on, I'll give you advice. Just start taking more jobs, make loads of money, and hurry up and become a CEO, okay? I'm tired today, so I'm going home. With that, Amanda stood up, leaving the rest of the food untouched, and walked out of my apartment as if she had said everything she needed to. Left behind, I sat there in the now silent room, dumbfounded, my mouth slightly open like an idiot, unable to fully process what had just happened. From that day on, every time Amanda saw me, she would start giving me advice like, have you gotten more work? Did you raise your rates? Your way of doing things is inefficient, and you need to make money faster and get yourself an office. Whenever I didn't follow her suggestions, her tone became more and more aggressive. I'm being generous enough to give you all this advice, and you still don't get it? Or what is it that you're so used to being poor you've given up on trying to succeed? Are you planning on falling so far you can't even afford to eat? She'd say, sneering at me. Her advice soon turned into outright contempt, constantly belittling me for being poor. She was no longer the Amanda I once knew. I've had enough. Let's break up. One day, Amanda barged into my place like she always did, plopped herself down on the living room chair, and coldly announced it without even looking at me. Oh, so you were thinking the same. I listened to her words with a strange mix of sadness and relief. I was just about to thank her for everything when, finally, what a relief. Now I can be free from this gloomy, penniless entrepreneur. I mean, without me around, a failure like you with no talent for business will probably go bankrupt and end up on the streets. What was it you said again? Clients I made smile? Yeah, go beg them for help. Though I guess people who hire someone like you must be broke too. Ha, what a joke. With that, she flung open the front door and stormed out. After Amanda and I broke up, I threw myself into work more than ever. I knew this wasn't something that would bring results overnight. That's why I focused on the clients who trusted me, carefully crafting each project, valuing every conversation, and cherishing the smiles of satisfaction when we completed a job together. I put my all into understanding their needs and doing work that met their expectations. Because if I kept doing that, I truly believed I'd eventually connect with even more people, and that those connections would lead to something greater. About a year had passed since then. I was on my way to deliver some design files I had promised to a client. It was a company that had reached out to me not long after I became independent. The president, Mr. Norris, had also started his company when he was young and went through a lot of hardship. When we first met to discuss a project, he smiled and said, "You remind me of my younger self, though I was a bit more handsome." From then on, every time I visited for a meeting, Mr. Norris would share stories about the struggles he faced when starting out, and how he managed to recover during times when there was no work, always hoping his experiences would help me. And in fact, everything he told me was full of valuable insights for doing business. Not only that, but he started giving me repeat work saying, let's have you handle the next one too. He had become one of my most important clients. At the scheduled time, I arrived at the company and handed over the deliverables. We wrapped up the usual confirmations, and just as I was about to leave, Mr. Norris called out to me. "Kyle, thanks again for delivering another great design." "No, thank you for everything. I'll keep working hard so you'll want to come back again." I gave him a deep, enthusiastic bow. "Haha, you really are a pleasure to work with. And your designs are outstanding. Everyone who visits our office says so. Thank you so much." His words warmed my heart. All right, time to give it my all again. Starting today, I was quietly psyching myself up when Mr. Norris said, "So, someone who visited our office recently has a connection at another company, and they were wondering if they might be able to get your help. If you're open to it, would you be willing to hear them out?" There was no reason to say no. Sure, it was a request from Mr. Norris, someone I respected, but more than that, someone saw my work and felt something. They wanted to reach out. I felt the power of connection. And at that moment, I knew deep down that everything I had done up until now, it hadn't been wrong. Of course, I may not be much, but if there's anything I can do to help, I'd be honored to hear more. Seeing my enthusiasm, Mr. Norris smiled just like he had the very first time we met. The next day, he introduced me to the president of a certain company. "Once again, Kyle, thank you so much for accepting this sudden request." Mr. Simmons, a gray-haired man, bowed his head. "No, I should be the one thanking you. I truly appreciate the opportunity." I bowed my head as well. "So, regarding your request for my help, would you mind sharing the details with me?" "Yes. The truth is, we've taken on a design project at our company, but due to changes on the client's end, the deadline was suddenly moved up quite a bit. As you can see, we're a small company with limited designers. We plan to divide the work among the available team members, but of course, this is when the revisions and change requests all started piling up. At that point, Mr. Simmons let out a deep sigh. "It's a project we need to begin immediately, but we're extremely short on staff." While I was at a loss, I remembered a poster someone told me about. One they said was just fantastic. After reaching out to everyone I could think of, I finally asked my friend about the designer of that poster. And that led me to you, Kyle. After finishing his story, Mr. Simmons looked me straight in the eyes and bowed deeply. "I know I'm asking a lot, but please would you be willing to collaborate on this project with our in-house designer?" Then he continued, "To be honest, we won't be able to pay you much for this project. But if we succeed, I'd like to continue working with you and offer more design jobs in the future. Please, I hope you'll consider it." After hearing everything, I responded, "Mr. Simmons, please raise your head. If someone like me can be of help, I'd be glad to support you. I also want to honor the connection made by Norris, who's been a great mentor to me." Relief washed over Mr. Simmons' face as he heard my answer. "Thank you. Your design work was truly wonderful. We're very happy to have this opportunity to work with you." His words made me genuinely happy. It meant so much to know that what I'd been building all this time had reached someone, that it had led to a new opportunity, that someone had seen my work and appreciated it enough to say so. "Thank you so much, Mr. Simmons. It means a lot to hear that from you." A short moment later, there was a knock at the meeting room door. "Ah, that must be her. Come in," Mr. Simmons called out. The door opened quietly, and a woman entered. She looked to be around the same age as me. She had a calm presence, but there was a strength in her expression. She was a striking woman. "Allow me to introduce her. She's the designer from our company who will be working with you on this project. Nice to meet you. My name is Mary. Thank you very much for accepting this last-minute request." As I listened to her introduce herself, something tugged at the back of my mind. Mary. Huh? I must have looked puzzled. Both of them smiled when they saw my face. I forgot to mention she's my daughter. She's also one of our most talented designers. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Kyle. I've seen your designs after hearing about them from my father. They were truly inspiring, and as a fellow designer, I was deeply moved. I'm really looking forward to working with you." With that, Mary extended her hand toward me. I hurried to reach out and shake it. Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you too. Though I was nervous at first, Mary turned out to be warm and approachable, and as we had more meetings together, we quickly grew comfortable working as a team. Since I was technically just helping on this project, Mary handled the main design work while I supported her. The design Mary came up with perfectly captured both the client's requests and the company's image. It was so well done, she hardly needed my help. But she still said, "We're creating this together," and took the time to listen to my thoughts, incorporating anything she felt was worthwhile. The deadline was tight, and the quality demanded was extremely high, but through careful effort and teamwork, we were able to deliver a fantastic final design. Working with Mr. Simmons and Mary taught me so much, both as a designer and as a person. It was a truly meaningful experience, worth far more than the compensation. Just as he promised, Mr. Simmons offered me ongoing work after the project's success. He even introduced me to new contacts. To this day, he remains one of my most important mentors. Thanks to the connections I made with people like him, my work began to steadily grow and finally gain momentum. A few months later, I found myself at a well-known wedding venue in Tokyo. The place was filled with guests, all sharing in the joy of today's happy couple. The atmosphere was bright and full of love. At the entrance to the venue, the welcome board read, "Samuel and Mary." Yes, today I had been invited to the wedding of Mary, the daughter of Mr. Simmons. I sat at a table with other guests from the business side, waiting for the bride and groom to make their entrance. While chatting with some of the other attendees, an announcement came over the speakers. It was time. Everyone turned their attention toward the entrance of the hall. Amid the bright music and enthusiastic applause, the groom, Samuel, and the bride, Mary, made their entrance. I joined in the applause, celebrating the couple with heartfelt claps. Mary looked beautiful and so incredibly happy. "Congratulations, Samuel." "Congratulations, Mary." I watched their backs as they walked down the aisle through the continuing applause, murmuring those words. The reception moved along smoothly, and eventually it was time for the bride and groom to change outfits. I stood up to use the restroom. Maybe it was because I wasn't used to attending weddings, but I realized I had been more nervous than I thought. My shoulders and lower back felt stiff, so I stopped in the empty hallway outside the restroom to stretch a bit. "Kyle?" Oh yes?" I hadn't expected anyone to call my name, so my voice came out awkwardly. I turned toward the voice, flustered, and there stood someone I never expected to see. "Wait, Amanda?" "That's right." Standing there was my ex-girlfriend Amanda, whom I had broken up with over a year ago. "I knew it. It was you." Her voice was a little hesitant, but from her tone, it seemed like she already knew I'd be there. Judging by her dress, she was also a guest at Mary's wedding. After the way we had parted, making small talk felt completely out of place, but ignoring her wasn't an option either. I opened my mouth to say something, but Amanda spoke first. "What are you doing here? This is a wedding, you know. A place like this isn't meant for a washed-up loser like you." She hadn't changed one bit. That same condescending look. Those same harsh words. I was so fed up I turned to walk away without saying a word. But seeing me stay silent only fueled Amanda's insults. "Oh, I get it. Are you obsessed with that woman and stalking her or something? You kept giving her those creepy little glances, calling Mary that woman, and saying I'm chasing her around?" Being falsely accused of stalking was too much. I haven't done anything like that, and I never would. And that way of talking about her is completely disrespectful. In response to my words, Amanda scoffed with a sharp humph, and her attitude grew even more confrontational. "Then what? Don't tell me. You came here because you knew I would be here?" "Ugh, clinging to your ex like that, how disgusting." I couldn't let her keep running wild and spreading rumors. Though I was completely exasperated by her rambling, I cut in. "Hate to ruin the drama, but I was invited as a guest on the bride's side. I've been working with Mary's company." "Oh, really? Working with our company, huh? Wait, are you saying you work at Mr. Simmons' company too?" "That's right. I quit my last job because the pay was too low and transferred over. So that's what happened. I had been to Mr. Simmons' company several times since our first project, but I had never noticed Amanda was working there. Well, I guess it wouldn't be strange if she were in a different department. As I thought about that, Amanda suddenly flashed that same unpleasant grin. So, working with our company, huh? So basically, you're still just one of our subcontractors. Still stuck scraping by, huh? Well, what can we expect from a broke designer with no business talent? And just like that, it began again. If she really thought that way about me, she could have just ignored me altogether. I let out a sigh, just like I used to back when we were on the verge of breaking up. To think our company actually worked with someone like you. And Mary, wasn't she a designer too? She's just some decorative piece being favored because she's the boss's daughter. You two working together? Honestly, I feel bad for everyone else. It's so pathetic. It's funny. Amanda burst out laughing as she said it. How could anyone speak that way about the daughter of her own company's president? And to mock Mary, someone so earnest and dedicated to her work, was absolutely unacceptable. Amanda, say what you want about me, but how dare you talk about Mary like that? Sure, she's the president's daughter, but she never acts entitled. She's thoughtful toward those around her and works just as hard as everyone else. She's a remarkable person both as a designer and as a human being. Though I hadn't known Mary that long, we'd worked together on multiple projects. I had seen firsthand her character, her attitude toward work, her passion for design. Every part of her was admirable. I couldn't let Amanda's insults slide. My voice, filled with anger, made Amanda flinch for a second, but she quickly recovered and shot me a glare. So you're taking her side. What is it with everyone and that woman? And you don't even get me started on you. You show up at a place where you don't belong, and now you've got the nerve to talk back to me? You never respected me. That's why you could never get a decent place to live, or grow a company, or escape your loser lifestyle. Her voice kept rising with every word. A small crowd began to gather, drawn by the shouting. Humph! You should be groveling right now, you bottom-feeder designer who's barely surviving thanks to our company. You ought to be thanking me on your knees. Her voice echoed throughout the venue, completely out of place for a wedding reception. And then, are you the one speaking so rudely to a man who's done so much for our company? A low, calm voice tinged with anger came from behind Amanda. From the small crowd that had formed, one man stepped forward. When Amanda and I saw his face, we both froze in place. Mr. Simmons. He looked at me and gave a small nod and smile before turning his now serious face to Amanda, who had gone pale. You're Amanda, correct? She twitched at the sound of his voice and answered in a whisper. Yes. Gone was her earlier confidence. Now she stood there, unsure of what to do. I heard your voice, mostly yours, really, and it seems you two know each other. I don't care what kind of relationship you have. Mr. Simmons paused for a moment, then continued. I heard what you said about his work, but it seems you don't understand a thing. What? Mr. Simmons, earlier you said Kyle was an important person to the company. That must be some kind of mistake, right? He's just a broke designer. How dare you speak about him that way? Mr. Simmons' voice, shaking with barely contained anger, still stayed composed. Around a year and a half ago, our company faced the biggest crisis since its founding. Our performance had declined. Contracts with clients were being terminated one after another, and we were on the brink when, just as a final opportunity for survival presented itself in the form of a highly challenging large-scale project from a major shopping center chain. We were fortunate enough to connect with Kyle through a series of valuable relationships, and he delivered outstanding results that helped turn everything around. I only recently learned about what Mr. Simmons' company was going through at that time. It wasn't just me, there were many people involved, but that project turned into the spark that brought new clients and renewed contracts, saving the company from the brink. If we hadn't been able to receive Kyle's help at that time, this company likely wouldn't even exist today. And while Mary was an excellent designer, even without any bias as her father, if she had been forced to carry the entire burden alone, her true abilities might never have been realized. But by watching how Kyle approaches his work, I learned the importance of always remembering there is someone on the other side, of understanding and respecting that person's feelings, of valuing human connections and expanding them, and of putting your whole heart into every task. Listening to Mr. Simmons speak such words of praise, I wasn't sure whether to be honored or embarrassed. I honestly didn't know how to react. That's why recently I offered him a position as an executive at our company. What? An executive? You're kidding. Yes. That happened not long ago. He had called me in suddenly and surprised me with the offer. His sincere, heartfelt words moved me, and I humbly accepted. Amanda. Snapped out of her daze by hearing her name, Amanda looked up at Mr. Simmons with wide, frightened eyes. You seem to have completely misunderstood Kyle, but he possesses remarkable talent as a designer despite working in the demanding world of freelancing. He has steadily built up his career through consistent effort, and his character and meticulous work have earned him a strong reputation in this industry. He's now one of the most sought-after rising stars. And even after hearing all of that, do you still intend to call him a bottom-of-the-barrel subcontractor designer? His voice at the end was laced with an anger I had never heard from Mr. Simmons before. Even I involuntarily straightened my posture. Amanda stood trembling, her face pale and drained of all color. Ignoring her shocked state, Mr. Simmons continued. Oh, and by the way, I've already heard plenty about you. Your poor attitude at work, how you treat other employees, and particularly how you've gone out of your way to bother Mary, even though you're in completely different departments. I've heard it not only from her, but from others as well. I really do respect Mary's work. So, that's why. As Amanda realized that Mr. Simmons had been fully aware of her behavior at work, the color drained from her face. Her words became increasingly disjointed. Respect? Huh, that's interesting. Just earlier, I believe I heard you call her a decoration, didn't I? At Mr. Simmons' words, I thought I heard a sharp intake of breath nearby. Well, Amanda, thank you for coming today for my daughter's sake, but I think it's best if you head home now. We'll arrange a time later to speak with your supervisor. With that, Mr. Simmons turned his back to Amanda and walked toward me. Let's head back to the venue, he said calmly, bringing an end to the confrontation. Among the gathered onlookers, a few seemed to be Amanda's coworkers. They were whispering quietly to one another, glancing in Amanda's direction. As we returned to the reception hall, I looked back briefly to see Amanda sitting on the floor, her expression blank and powerless. Honestly, I didn't feel sorry for her. If her hatred had been directed at me alone, I might have been able to bear it. Though even then, being on the receiving end for so long had already been more than enough. But from Mr. Simmons' words, it was clear she had problems far beyond what I knew her work ethic, how she treated others. She brought this on herself. It was a natural consequence. Our encounter had been nothing more than a coincidence. I had no reason to speak to Amanda again. That chapter of my life had long since closed. Mary's wedding came to a close without issue. It was truly a beautiful ceremony. As I walked, I caught myself smiling, imagining the day I might have a wedding like that of my own someday. A passerby gave me a strange look. Okay, get it together, Kyle. I tightened the knot of my tie, giving myself a little pep talk. Today, I was visiting Mr. Simmons' company to officially sign the paperwork for my executive appointment. Kyle! Just as I neared the building, someone called out from behind me. That voice. No way. Amanda? It was her. Amanda, who I'd run into at Mary's wedding, stood there. The moment she heard me say her name, she lit up and came hurrying over. Ah! I instinctively stepped back. The confrontation at the wedding had left such a mark that my body reacted before I even had time to think. Amanda seemed momentarily surprised by my reaction, but quickly composed herself and started speaking in a sickeningly sweet voice. Kyle, I'm really sorry about last time. I was just in a really bad place mentally, and I ended up saying things I didn't mean. I was left speechless. Didn't mean it? And yet, she had delivered every insult so smoothly, without hesitation. Just like before, she took my silence as an opening and pressed on. I always knew you had real talent, Kyle. I really did. It's just, I knew you were capable of so much more. So I kind of said those things to push you, you know? You've got to be kidding me. I sighed, shaking my head. Even if that were true, there are lines you don't cross, things you simply don't say. And it wasn't just me you insulted, Mary too. That's why I wanted to apologize. For before, and for everything. With a face on the verge of tears, she reached out to grab my hand, but I stepped back. And with a firm voice, I said clearly, "No, you don't need to apologize anymore." Hearing those words, Amanda's face lit up, mistaking them for forgiveness. Then, does that mean? Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm asking you to stay out of my life from now on. A clear rejection. I had no intention of reconnecting with Amanda. I didn't want to waste any more of my energy on something so toxic. But Amanda wouldn't back down. But we used to be so close. I won't say those awful things anymore. I know you've changed, Kyle, and I know I can be better too. Changed, huh? Yeah, I mean, now you've got a successful career, money, a secure future. There's nothing to worry about anymore. So there's no reason we can't be together. She blurted it all out in one breath, then suddenly pressed herself against my arm. I wanted to pull away, but she was a woman. Physically forcing her off wasn't something I could do lightly. I tried to shake her off gently. Kyle, come on. Let's start over. I can be a great wife, you know? Let me be the wife of a CEO. Enough already. Taking advantage of a brief moment when she tried to cling even closer, I finally managed to pull my arm free. Ah, don't be so rough, she screamed, apparently forgetting we were out in public. To a passerby, this probably looked like some messy lover's spat, a real scene. I'd had enough. Just as I was trying to figure out what to do with Amanda in her agitated state, I heard a laid-back voice from behind me say, "What's going on?" It didn't match the tense atmosphere of the moment at all. The moment I heard that voice, a smile instantly spread across my face. She smiled back at me and gently placed her hand over my left hand. "Sylvia." "Kyle, we were all getting worried since we hadn't heard from you after your message. I'm so sorry." Amanda, clearly startled by the sudden appearance of a stranger, stood there in confusion. But as our conversation continued and she began to feel left out, she suddenly raised her voice. "Hey, who is this woman and why is she clinging to you all of a sudden?" She looked like she was about to explode. Sylvia, completely calm, responded with a graceful bow. "Nice to meet you. My name is Sylvia. You must be Amanda, correct? I've heard about you from my father and my sister." "What? How do you know who I am?" "Wait, Sylvia? Your father and sister? Don't tell me." "That's right. This is Sylvia, Mr. Simmons' younger daughter and Mary's sister. And she's someone very special to me. She's my fiancée." I turned to look at Sylvia as I said it. She looked back at me, blushing slightly with a shy smile. I'm still not used to it. It makes me a little embarrassed. When you say that, it makes me blush too. Maybe we were radiating happiness a bit too much, but I didn't care. Because I really was happy. "What? Fiance? No way." Amanda stood there, stunned, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. "That's why there's no going back, Amanda. I will never start over with you. And from now on, stay away from me and from her." "Amanda, I heard from my father that you're currently on suspension from work. Are you sure you should be out and about like this?" At those words, Amanda's shoulders jolted. She clenched her fists for a moment, then loosened them and slowly turned away, walking off unsteadily. We watched her leave for just a moment, then turned and made our way toward the company. And so, I officially began my new role as an executive at Mr. Simmons' company. A few days later, Mr. Simmons invited me out for a celebratory dinner. Joining us were his wife, and of course, Mary, and Samuel, who had just returned from their honeymoon. And so, the six of us, including Sylvia and me, gathered together. Before the dinner began, Mr. Simmons invited me aside for a private conversation. He told me that Amanda had recently undergone a formal meeting, during which she explained, in her own words, why she had lashed out with such hostility. Apparently, Amanda's father used to run a small business in their hometown. He was a man known for his strong sense of duty and compassion, someone who couldn't turn his back on those in need, and he was deeply trusted by the local community. Perhaps it was also a sign of the times, but as the business gradually began to struggle, the family's standard of living slowly declined as well. Even so, her father never gave up. He continued the business in a modest way, relying on those who had once supported him or people he had helped in the past. Amanda and her family lived on the edge, and there were times when they didn't have enough to eat. Eventually, thanks to a combination of support from others and improvements in the economy, they managed to avoid the worst-case scenario. But Amanda's heart had been worn thin by the severe poverty she had experienced. Her frustration and pain were directed at the people around her father, those she believed had failed to help when things were hardest. In truth, many people had offered help, thanks to the goodwill her father had built over the years, but as a child, Amanda couldn't see that. Why didn't anyone help us? Why did my mother and I have to go through so much pain? From that moment on, Amanda began to believe that it was her father's fault for failing to run the business well, for not earning enough money. Being kind in business doesn't pay the bills. If only he had chosen work that made more money. She swore she would never struggle with money again. Those feelings came rushing back when I decided to go independent. Amanda's harsh words and disrespectful attitude toward Mary came from intense jealousy. Despite being in the same position Amanda once was, the daughter of a company president, Mary showed no signs of financial struggle and was admired by her colleagues while doing the work she loved. Amanda had poured her heart out during the meeting, and in front of Mr. Simmons, Mary, and the entire staff, she sincerely apologized for everything and submitted her resignation. She had wanted to apologize to me directly, but made it clear that she didn't wish to be involved any further. So instead, I was simply given a message. If, someday far in the future, I could find it in myself to forgive her, she would be grateful for the chance to apologize in person. I understand that Amanda went through a lot in her past and endured real hardship, but that doesn't mean I can ever truly forgive the things she's done. Still, she was someone I once shared a part of my life with, and if this experience leads her to change and find happiness somewhere down the road, I hope that one day I'll be able to genuinely wish her well. I want to keep moving forward, grateful for all the connections I have around me, doing my best to repay the kindness I've received from those people. I may be slower than others, but even so, I want to keep walking with the belief that beyond everything I've built so far, a brighter future is waiting.